So I will be talking about the next wave of the drugs which we call as the biosimilars. Actually, biosimilars, we call it, there are different names, similar biologic, biosimilars. So they would be there after a few years. So we need to know that what kind of effect and what kind of change that we could see in over the time in the next few years. These are my disclosures. So if you see, as of now, since last 10 years, probably, we have been using Lucentis, Eylea, and Avastin as the major drugs that we have been using to treat these patients. And next few years, they are all reaching to their patent expiry in both US and Europe. So once these drugs, they reach to their patent expiry, probably the next wave of the drugs that would come into the major role play, those would be the biosimilar molecules. As of now, if you look at the ranibizumab, you have the only molecule which is there as a biosimilar to ranibizumab, that is Razumab, and just approved in India only, not anywhere else till now. Probably the molecules which is biosimilar, which is going to enter the US market in next few years when the Lucentis patent expires, probably that is the FYB201, because that is in the quite high line in the clinical trials. There are a few other molecules which are there in the low line of the clinical trials, for example, Xlucane, PFFA2, CHS3351, SB11. SB11 trials are on even in India also. So even aflibercept have few more years for the patent expiry, but there are molecules, for example, FYB203, ALTL9, CHS2020, M710. I would not discuss bevacizumab biosimilars because it's a wonderful drug, already available on a cheaper price, and doctors have gained real good experience in that. So I'm not sure whether biosimilars would change anything here. So just a quick word on what biosimilars exactly are. These are the copies, not exactly direct copies, but they should show that they are quite similar in terms of pharmacokinetics, dynamics, immunogenicity, safety, and efficacy. So to give them a name that they are really similar. How they are different from the generic drugs? So that we all need to understand, because the market is still maturing. Generic drugs are chemical formulas. You can make them easily. For example, paracetamol, you can get 10 brands of paracetamol anywhere made, while the biosimilars, they are all monoclonal antibodies. They are made in the living cells. They are fragile. They tend to lose stability. So they are quite different. Now, the question is how difficult is to manufacture these biosimilar drugs? So the question is, innovator molecules, even their patent expires, they do not reveal the entire process that they went through. So actually, they need to follow the reverse engineering. They have to have the molecules try to test right from the furthest to the original point. There is an investment upfront, because so everybody cannot do it. So what could be the possible change in future, and why that possible change in future you could see? Innovator biologics takes approximately 10 to 15 years for a single molecule, approximately 1,200 to 2,500 million US dollars for a single molecule to bring into the market, while biosimilar takes 8 to 10 years, approximately 5 to 8 years earlier, and approximately 1/10 of the price you get one molecule. So definitely you get a little bit cheaper drug. So before we analyze that what kind of the changes that you could expect in the global market after a few years, you just need to see what kind of trend that we are following at this point of time. So if you see the global trend, ASRS survey data in US, wet AMD patients were treated predominantly with Avastin, CRVO, BRVO, all these patients predominantly they were being treated with Avastin, followed by the Lucentis and Eylea. Share was much, much less. Look at the share of Avastin, 70%. And the other drugs, 8% and 10%. Just flip it to this country. Now look at the data of the VRSI. I do not have the data from the VRSI in 2018, but this is the data in May 2017. What it says is 47% is Avastin, and equal weightage is Lucentis. And there was a time when biosimilar came in, it already captured approximately 5% of the market. Why is that difference? Because in US, you see the Avastin big use, because they have a compounding pharmacies well in place everywhere, which you do not have in this country, and people have burned their hands. They don't want to get into the lawsuits. So the Avastin share could get drifted to any molecules or any similar biology which comes in with a single vial. Lucentis share, why the Lucentis share is too much in this country? Because the pricing is differential. If you look at in the US, the pricing of the one Lucentis vial is approximately $2,000, which is 1/38 in this country. That is the reason that you see this kind of distribution. So now if you look at the first biosimilar that was launched in 2015, after initial hiccup, you had a lot of reactions coming in between few of the batches. After that, company identified few of the constituents, and then they did few corrections. Then you see the kind of usage. Whatever their sales was in 2015, 16, 17 all together, that is much more in the last year. So there is a need for an alternative. So that's why it was taken up quite well until unless in the last month that we see there are some ADRs who are reported from a particular batch. But overall, if you see from 2016 to 18, if you see the ADR percentage is approximately 0.012%. And this is the paper which was recently published by the Jugel and the group in terms of the endophthalmitis rates in patients who have received the anti-VEGF injections. Just look at this data. With aflibercept 0.1, with the bevacizumab 0.05, and with ranibizumab 0.04. So overall, if you see, the ADRs were not high. But the problem was with one batch, ADR number was high. So company really need to look at that why is that intra-batch variability. So if you correct that, I think probably then they can again gain the market. So as I said, how the things would change. Developed world, things would change in a way, not just because of the drug, because all the US try to save the cost because they are spending a lot of money on the insurance. I'm sure in UK also the same thing. So they, because of the policy, they would like to have these biosimilars in their armamentarium rather than the drugs like Lucentis. In developing world, it's a completely different equation. For example, you had a lot of alert for Avastin, so people would like to definitely see the options which have a single vial. Now the question comes in, okay, once these molecules, biosimilar molecules, enters into the market, real on your table, how would innovator companies protect their market share? They have few options. For example, if they work parallelly on the different kind of research, for example, Genentech is working on the RPDS. If they are quite successful in bringing this, they can definitely gain the market again. And there are other ways you can extend the claim extensions of the patent. For example, IDEA did that with few of their claims they have extended from 2021 to 2030. They can file some patent infringement suits, and they can highlight the minor differences. If you just look at this paper, which was published by the Novartis head office from Basel in 2017, if you just look at the title, Identification of Multiple Serine to Asparagine Sequence Variation Sites in an Intended Copy Product of Lucentis by Mass Spectroscopy. By just looking at the title, you would see that there is a huge variation in the product of the biosimilar that they are comparing with. So while if you look at the result and the discussion, so the final is relative potency was determined in 2 ranibizumab batch. Potency assay analyzing binding to VEGF showed 96 to 97% relative binding capacity, similar to Lucentis, reference standard, and the potency revealed 99 to 100% relative potency compared to Lucentis. So essentially they were similar, so they can highlight the minor differences. So I would just leave you with a term called biobetter. Biobetter is a term given by Lupin head from India, which has been accepted throughout the globe, because all these innovative companies, they had a manufacturing 10 to 15 years before with the older machinery, while the newer drugs, biosimilars, they are 10 to 15 years further. So there's definitely change in the technology. There's a probability that you might see a positive and a better response, but they cannot market it as a biobetter because they have to go through everything again. So to conclude, there's a possibility of big shift, but all depends how biosimilars are priced and how they control the batch variations and how innovative companies, they plan their strategy. Thank you.
Thank you.